Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash, and here's today's comic, House of X, number 3. Can I focus? Do I know how? I think we have the technology. I think we can do this. Joining me, as always, is, look at that, Stan the man. How you doing, Stan? I see you got me something. Oh, look at this. Anchor, California lager. This stuff's hard to find, especially outside of California. This is one of the original microbrews, handcrafted American lager. And why is this focus just not working? Jeez, Forky, did you mess with my camera? He doesn't know. He just reads comics and sifts through trash. Actually, Forky is our resident mascot and the intern of the channel. This is House of X number 3, and we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it, shall we? You make me so proud, Professor X. And here is the credits, in case you care about who's working on this book. Jonathan Hickman is the writer. Pepe Larraz is the artist. And we start off. Krakoa. It's done. I've assembled a team, good mutants all, who accept the mission for what it is. They understand both the stakes and the risk. They understand and embrace it. Such a brave face you're wearing for me. But I can hear the fear in your mind, Scott. Is it wrong that I'm afraid? That I have doubts? Of course not. You've always been that way. What matters is that you overcome it, and you do so for your family. You make me so proud. And let me put your fears to rest, my son. You're not going to die. I won't allow it. For the righteous can never truly die. They live on, transformed into something immortal by their mighty works. For you to die, you would have to be forgotten. And no one forgets a founder of a nation. Time to go. And that's how we start off here. If you have been following along with the story, you should be reading this book, by the way. If you're not reading this book, I'm sorry for you. You can follow along my videos, but my videos aren't really meant to tell you the story and just so you can kind of get the plot. I mean, you kind of will because I do spoil things, but not in a way that's going to be as enjoyable. My goal here is to really just talk about the books, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, hopefully engage like-minded people that can, give me their own perspectives of the book and so forth. Here's the team that's going on the mission. We got Wolverine, some modern-day X-Men character I don't know. We got Angel. Apparently he's back to being Archangel. I don't know how that happened. I've been out of X-Men for a long time. We got another girl. They said her name. I forgot it already. These modern X-Men are just... Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, my favorite X-Men. It's good to see him here. Jean Grey back in her old 60s Marvel Girl outfit. It's kind of cool to see Jean Grey kind of being Marvel Girl, but this costume is dated really bad. And then we've got Mystique. I really like how Pepe does Mystique. I don't know why they need to take a shape changer into a space battle, but, hey, she's a psychopath. She murders people. She's part of the X-Men. That's modern comics. And they talk about how they're not going to bring plants. And Angel's like, I don't get it. Why no plants? Yeah, call me crazy, but it seems like a good idea to have emergency way home. That's because you're only thinking of success, not planning for failure. What if the Mother Mold AI gets a good hard look at what we're doing here in Krakoa? How all of this works? Who knows? They may find something we haven't. Exactly, Monet. Okay, that's her name, Monet. He's generic goofball X-Men. If she's one of your favorite X-Men, I'm sorry. They've never created, well, not never. It's very rare that a modern X-Men has been created since the Claremont run that's had any sort of staying power. No one gets it. Exactly, Monet. So we can't risk it. So no plants. Got it? Everyone? Are you listening, Mystique? My ears work fine, Summers. Do they? What about when you said not to murder people? Oh, yeah, you didn't listen to that order, did you? Okay, so what about the human crew? The mission is to stop the mother mold no matter what, but we want to keep casualties as close to zero as possible. The station has a long-term capacity of just over 3,000, so there are probably a lot of innocent civilians alongside whatever security they have. So here, right here in this one frame, answers the question that some people in my circles, Doc, and others, have been saying, well, why does Magneto just toss the whole thing into space? Well, or into the sun. Aside from the fact that I hope that all gets retconned, Magneto being able to toss space stations into the sun millions of miles away is beyond Omega level stupidity to me. That just needs to be forgotten and never happen. But this is also another reason, if you need an excuse, they don't want to kill 3,000 people. So Wolverine, of course, makes a really good statement. That's pure Wolverine. Innocent civilians don't build machines to exterminate a species, Slim. Good point, Wolverine. Good point. So, all right, punching it, and the X-Men take off from the moon in their new Blackbird. I kind of miss the old Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird that it was named after and why it's called the Blackbird. But, hey, this one has a cool X window. It looks pretty cool. Pepe Larraz did a decent looking enough ship. It's actually, we're going to find out it's a Shi'ar ship. And then we get big walls of text. And we learn, for you newcomers, what a Sentinel is, an Alpha Sentinel. Those are the old big purple and blue giant robots. They are not AI. They're not sentient. Master Mold is basically one of them that is sentient and can make more of them. And then Mother Mold is the new thing that's been introduced, which can make Master Molds. And then there's an Omega Sentinel. An Omega Sentinel is basically a human that's been infected with nanotechnology and turned into a Sentinel. And then we have Nimrod, which is a pure nano Sentinel construct, anti-mutant, adaptive, self-aware, self-replicating, virtually indestructible. I really like Nimrod. I really do. I think he's a great classic X-Men villain. Been around for several decades now. This story is kind of tying in, big loop with Nimrod. It's really cool. I hate the nanotechnology stuff. It's so overdone. And so many comic writers just are not techie people, and they don't have that. So they're like, oh, nanites. Oh, I get what nanites are. And then everything is now nanotechnology. And Tony Stark's Iron Man, the Iron Man suit is now this nano construct that just, he can just form it at will. And it's just like, come on, no. Comics, yes, I get that comics have heightened, technology that doesn't really exist in the real world, but you're getting into this problem that doesn't make any, it's too big of a leap in technology. Nanites are, if you're not familiar with what they're microscopic robots. Okay, so imagine a robot that's so small you can't see it with the naked eye. And then these robots are capable, in theory, they've never made these. In theory, these robots would then replicate themselves. They would build new nanites. And when you get enough of them together, you could make constructs out of them. But originally the idea was that nanites could invade, your bloodstream, and could be used for medical purposes to, heal the body. See, comic books have used this now for Bloodshot in the Valiant universe. Nanites are now everywhere because comic writers got this idea of nanites, and nanites do everything, and we can do everything with nanites. Nimrod being completely constructed of nanites wouldn't make sense. It would be like trying to construct a bridge and using only cars to do it. Nanites would have too much infrastructure of that's not devoted to superstructure. So to make a living being out of them, it just wouldn't make sense. Anyways, I don't want to get into this nonsense, but it's just, what I'm saying? It's just, you get all these comic writers like, oh, nanites explain everything. What's going on? Oh, it's nanites. Oh, it's nanite. They just do it all. So then we get this other wall of text. Look at this. Okay, it's only the second page so far. Whoops, spoiler, third page. And this whole wall of text here on this black page covers what has essentially happened thus far. And also what's very interesting, because what's happened thus far has jumped around in time, this little like loopity-doo puts it all in linear order, or chronological order, if you will. So that you, if you've been struggling to go, I kind of know what's going on, but I'm getting a little confused that this is happening in the future and then this is the past. Also, some of these things that happened in the future were actually now in the past. It's really weird. This all explains it. And you have to understand something and remember that Moira lives her life in a linear fashion. But when she jumps back into time to be reincarnated, that still carries off in a linear fashion for her. Meaning the 9th life of Moira happened before the 10th life. When she dies in the 9th life, she goes back and is reborn into the 10th. All that stuff that happened was previous to this life. However, for the rest of us, that's like a future. It all gets erased for a new future possibly to happen, because Moira is now altering the timeline by her very existence. So all that stuff gets erased. But as a reader, we read that all, right? So that happened in the future. Then Moira jumped in the past. It got erased. And then new things are happening. So essentially, since we're experiencing it from Moira's point of view, that happened in the past for us as well. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if this helps, right? I'm annoyed that we're having to pay for these walls of text, but they almost are necessary. These books are so crunchy. Project Achilles talks about a superhuman maximum facility prison, yada, yada, yada. This could have been told in a book, but whatever. So now we're at the prison, and they're about to put someone in the prison. They're having a court hearing, a trial. I'm not sure why the trial's at the prison. Maybe because it's a superhuman, so they don't follow the normal procedures. The defense attorney is trying to get the motion dismissed. The judge is like, no, this is like the most burly judge you've ever seen. And here is the DA, or actually the Attorney General is there. I don't know why an Attorney General would be there, but and we find out that it's, hey, look who it is. We know why he's there. If you've been following the books, he killed all those people. And he pleads, oh, I'm guilty, meat. Spits out his little toothpick. I've definitely got bad manners. And then burly judge. And the other charges? Yeah, I did those too. It ain't like it's gonna matter. Ain't no place ever been built that can hold me. And if we're really being honest, ain't like I'm gonna sit here and let you judge me anyway. You think these chains can keep me from making your insides your outsides? 'Cause let me tell you, they can't. Sniff, sniff. You smell that? What? Says this is defense attorney. Jasmine. What's that mean? It means you're fired, counselor. This is a pretty cool little interaction scene. And then in comes Emma Frost, the White Queen, as villainous as ever. Modern comics, one of the things I hate about modern comics, or modern X-Men, I should say, is that Emma Frost was an X-Men. I hate that she's an X-Men now. She's a villain. She's not a brotherhood. She was Hellfire Club. The fact that Scott Summers forgot about Jean Grey and fell in love with her, and then became this pseudo-Nazi guy. Like, all this stuff, modern X-Men just freaking went down the shithole. I like Emma Frost as a character. I like her as a villain. I like her here. She's all glamorous. She's a woman who's very much into her looks. She's got these, I'm not sure if they're daughters or sycophants. Apparently they're daughter. I don't know. It's like, so she shows up. Judge has got a gun because he's hardcore. Most judges, would be anti-gun. I would get. Never mind. So she comes in and says, "I'm not sure that's the question you should be asking." As there's quite a difference between what's getting ready to happen and what that really means. Enlighten me. We got snipers, this whole situation. And she explains to them, like, the Department of State has agreed that, Krakoa is their own independent nation and so forth. Every citizen, i.e. every mutant who's a citizen of now Krakoa, gets diplomatic immunity, yada, yada, yada. That's really not how diplomatic immunity works, but for the sake of comic books, and this, the Attorney General's like, this isn't going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen. She's looking at her nails. Pepe Larraz really illustrated the scenes quite well. Not just, with great illustration, but the composition of the characters, the poses, just her looking at her nails like this, so disinterested, is great. Oh, it's going to happen. And for what it means, well, it simply means we don't answer to you anymore. That thing's a killer! Wait, Judge. Whoa, Judge. Aren't you supposed to hear the trial first before you make judgments? Again, I guess comic books, but still, like, this is pronouncing, isn't it like innocent till proven guilty? Just like my mama made me, and I ain't close to done. Yes, he's a bit of a monster. On that, I cannot disagree, but he's our monster, and from this day forward, mutants won't be judged in human courts, or by the likes of you. No, this is not how it today ends. Not on my watch. He's the most militaristic Attorney General I've ever seen. And then she gets threatened by Emma Frost and says, yada, 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 talks her down. Doesn't talk her down, basically intimidates her. It's a brave new world, darlings. Better get used to it. Now, Emma Frost is in full villain mode, and Sabretooth, of course, just confessing to murdering people, and he's going to murder more people in the future, is full villain. Oh, hey, look, another page of infographics. What? I'm having a problem. This is where I'm having a problem since issue 1. The X-Men feel like villains. They don't feel like heroes. I'm trusting in the author. I'm trusting in the story that all things will get revealed and make sense. But it's a leap of faith I'm having to take because I'm not getting evidence that I should, other than the plot is very interesting, the world building is very interesting, the character is missing. Then we get the Omega cycle of how a human Omega process works. If you're curious, that explains it. Then we're at the Orcus Forge. You still think this is a mistake? Self-preservation is completely rational, Dr. Gregor. It's the panic it produces where the errors get introduced. You think we're panicking? I think you built a mother mold that breeds master molds. The second you lose control, it's hard not to see this entire planetary system covered in gray, cold, emotionalist gray, with not a single pink fleshy bit in sight. After all, they know where mutants come from. A fair point, right? Like, why wouldn't the machines just turn on the things that make the mutants? Like, mutants come from humans, and this is a flaw that I'm starting to see. Well, it's not starting. It's been this way for a while in modern Marvel. Is that the mutants and humans are different. In the old days, there was this idea that mutants, yes, were Homo superior and everything, but the X-Men stood apart from many of the other mutants and realized that we're all human. It's all humanity, and that if this is the next evolutionary step, it doesn't change where you come from, right? Like, if your mom's not a mutant, she's still your mom. Like, you didn't just become a freaking reptile or something. Well, I guess some of them do become reptiles, but you know what I'm saying? And now this idea is like, that's a completely different race and species, and it's just, no. It's really annoying me. It's very elitist. It's very metaphorical for what's kind of going on in the world today with racial divide and so forth, and it's really annoying. So they're talking about this thing, and it's like, oh, we got an incoming. It looks like it came in from the dark side of Venus, then used the planet to slingshot towards us. We didn't even pick it up until it was 25 million miles out. Friendly? No, absolutely not. It's a modified Shi'ar-class scout. Only one possibility of who that is: the X-Men. And that's a cool setup shot here, so we know. And then she's just like, how could they possibly know what we're doing? Shot of Mother Mold somebody talk, somebody was listening, blah, blah, blah. And they talk about what we can't really stop them. They're like, the ship's too advanced, blah, 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 because it's Shi'ar technology. What do we do? They're like, well, why don't you get all the Sentinels that we've had? I think they're on Mercury. They're on their way, but they're too far, is what the problem is. By the time they get there, it'll be too late. But here you see all the Sentinels launching. Damn it. And then you see her husband. Hey, cheer up, my love. It's just a little fight for the survival of our species. Nothing to worry about. And the X-Men come in. They're attacking, shooting. They talk about how they're going to fire anyway, but they know it's not going to do any good. We're almost there. Send him in. Hey, Kurt, recon. So they talk about the schematics of the ship and everything, what they need him to do. And then Kurt teleports in. Here's the problem I have. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my memory is playing tricks on me. But I seem to remember Kurt can only teleport to where he's been or where he could see. Because the whole teleporting into a wall, I don't know. Maybe it's because they have the schematics. He can teleport blindly. This threw me off. If you're an expert on old classic X-Men, tell me if I'm just misremembering something or if something's changed. I don't know. So Kurt's bouncing all around. Man, sorry for the interruption. I use my phone for alarms during the day to remind me of different things I need to do. And inevitably goes off. So I got to wrap this one up. That's a good thing too, right? Keep me from going too long. So Kurt is teleporting around. We got guards. Everyone's on alert. Got to stop the X-Men. And they land. And they're breaching. So the X-Men are here. And then one of the doctor guys, who is the guy who's married to the girl, whatever. He looks up and he's like, damn. And he starts sealing all the blast doors. And he sees the welding coming through, and he's like, bad news, dear. What is it? They're cutting through the hull of the station, making some kind of entrance, which is yet another failure in today's total failure of expectations. It's a good idea, even smarter than that. They're hitting the right section to access the whole station. I'm pretty sure they have plans for the station, and they've planned this operation to perfection. So our only hope is to respond asymmetrically, irrationally even. What are you talking about, Erasmus? What are you doing? I like this shot here, and you can see. God, I forgot this character's name already. Holding her back. Oh, whoever it takes to build a better world. Oh, that's how you said. What are you doing? Oh, whatever it takes to build a better world. I joked about it a lot, but I really wish we had kids. And she starts crying. No! Be strong, love. Don't let them win. And he, puts together a makeshift explosive. And boom! He just, bam! Destroys everything and goes out in a blaze of glory. For you to die, you would have to be forgotten. And no one forgets the founder of a nation, Magneto. So we get 2 white pages devoted towards things that were said in the book. Some of the other ones weren't that way. My only problem with these, I'm actually okay with these. I have a problem paying for them. I buy comics for art and writing, not for cut and paste words that were elsewhere in the book onto a white page with some minimal graphic arts design. Like, this book was $3.99. You wouldn't hear a peep out of me on this, but they're $4.99. This was interesting. They finally put the Krakoan language code here, so you have a little secret decoder ring. That would have been a cool promo, actually, a little secret decoder ring. But Marvel doesn't have the money to do things like that. So you can decipher all of the little language you see everywhere. Here we have another page for the reading order. Here we are. The next issue we're supposed to read is House of X number 4, which makes sense. This is House of X number 3. It only makes sense when they're alternating. I've harped on this enough. And here we have the final page, or one of the final pages. They do this in every issue. I use the secret to code. This says next, and then it says it will be done. And these I don't know what they are. I can only assume they're sort of like parentheses or brackets. And the next one is then something sin, and then in brackets stir. Oh, sinny. Something sinny, stir. I don't know why it's sinnies. So obviously sinister. But in case you were caring about what those were. And then we get Stan's soapbox. Stan, I miss your soapbox, buddy. That was a good thing you did. So that's the book. And I did enjoy it. I have to admit. I really like the pacing. I like the world building. I was on a live stream with Englentine, aka I Love Comics, last night. And I've been on a few of his streams lately, and we were talking about things. And the question came up from one of the panelists asking me what makes for a good comic writer. And my answer at the time was, I think a good comics writer is broken down into three things that all comics writers should have some ability in. Number one is world building, and this is sort of the thing that's forgotten in a lot of comic lore. I make a big stink about Zack Snyder and Donny Cates because these guys are excellent world builders. Comics isn't just your everyday story. I mean, they can be. You know, in the old days, they had war comics and, you know, Western comics and stuff, and they were just like your real world type stories. But comics are a fantastic world. Comics have created a whole new mythos, the American mythos, which is the mythos of the superhero. It's something that is transcended pop culture to just be actual culture. And the reason people love comics, you know, aside from good stories, people love good stories, is the same reason that people love Star Wars or Star Trek or things of that nature. Obviously, yes, they like the good stories. They don't want bad Star Wars stories or bad Star Trek stories or bad Game of Thrones stories, you know, but they love the world, the mythos. They're happy to just tell new stories in that world. The characters are important. People want new stories of Luke, Han, and Leia and so forth. But they also just would be happy with good stories within that world. You can have whole new characters. The mythos is important. And in the world of mainstream comics like Marvel and DC, they each have their own mythos that people want to explore. It's very exciting and interesting to delve into that. Mythos is important. That's where world building comes. A lot of comics, modern comics creators, don't get this. They just rehash the old stuff. They don't develop the world. They don't allow fans to deep dive, you know, but Hickman is doing that in spades. Number two thing that's important is plot, right? Your story. You should have a strong plot. A to B. How do you get there? There should be some sort of conflict. Conflict doesn't always mean violence or anything. Conflict just means a struggle. And how do you resolve that struggle? These are things that comics used to do, or just by in general. They were always plot oriented. That was the heaviest thing. Then world building. And finally, character. Character is important, but it actually didn't used to be. And you can get away with weak character. Comics used to just be about story or plot and world building mostly. And then when Marvel kind of changed the dynamic in the Silver Age, when Kirby and Stan Lee were in, and then Ditko were starting to do characters that were breaking the mold. And, you know, Peter Parker was one of the most famous, just about being this kid who was awkward and had problems. You started really getting more into like character development and people caring about characters more than just like, oh, look, it's Superman. He stops the bad guy. Yay. And I'm not mocking anything. I don't say that, you know, I may say, you know, I may sound snarky. I don't mean that. So those are the three things: world building, plot, and character. Hickman is doing the first two really outstanding with this series. But the character part, lacking. And not so much that it's like bad character, it's just that he's not developing any. And here we get to see what I'm having a problem with, and again, this requires me to trust the author, is this guy here who's supposed to be the enemy, the scientist. This guy is a hero. This guy puts himself on the line so that his wife can be saved, so that their species can be saved. He gives everything. He sacrifices himself to be, not to be a hero, but to do what needs to be done. That's what heroism is, right? Is your ability to sacrifice for the needs of others. And you feel the emotion with this woman. With the X-Men, not so much. I love Kurt. He's one of my favorite characters. I love Wolverine, one of my favorite characters. You know, I'm like, oh, the X-Men, but they don't strike me as the good guys. I'm kind of rooting for them because they're my team, right? They're wearing the same jersey that I'm used to, and I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm not liking why. I'm not understanding the motive. I'm not on board. I guess they want to save themselves from extinction too, from the Sentinels. And okay, fine, but everything that they've done so far, they're aligning themselves with evil mutants, and you know, Hickman is explaining this whole thing with Moira, and she's tried all these different things, and and I get the reasons why, but that still doesn't sell me on the story as far as why I should care, right? I'm interested. He sold me on why I should be interested. So far, he hasn't sold me on why I should care. And in the beginning, we were guessing. If you saw my review on the first issue, which was very hard to review at the time, I was like, these guys, the X-Men, these aren't real X-Men. They're evil. They're hatched from pods. They're pod people. Like, but now I'm not feeling like they are. And I don't want the X-Men to be bad guys. I don't want to read a book of X-Men where they're the fascists. Like, I'm trusting you, Hickman. The story is interesting. You gotta make me care. Please explain to me why I should care about these X-Men beyond just they're wearing the faces and the costumes that I recognize and I loved in the past. So hopefully this video was valuable to you. Hopefully you just enjoyed hearing a perspective, even if it doesn't match your own. Tell me where your perspective differs on the book. I'd really like to know. Are you enjoying it? Are you not liking it? What would you like to see differently? Are you having some conflicts similar to what I'm doing? Whatever that may be. I'm still going to rate this highly. This is still a 4-star comic all the way. When all is said and done, if the payoff is as good as it's leading up to be, this could have a potential still of being a 5-star event. But like I said, I'm really enjoying things that are happening here, but I have a lot of skepticism that I really hope pays off. So for Stan and for Forky, I'm Ash. There's the code. Look at I did this on my comic box. I got a cool thing now for my comic box. I got the X-Men code. I don't know why I showed you that. You don't care. This is X-Men, a.k.a. actually House of X #1. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.